right. We're going to make a clear connection here from Moses to Leviathan. And I want you to remember here what you saw and how I explained it in chapter 3 of Revelation, looking there at verse 15 and 16. Talking about the cold and the hot, the good and the evil, when it's being run simultaneously, that this is a Leviathan. Now think about this for a moment. You have to look at the relativity of the words that he's speaking right now. He says, I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then because thou art lukewarm, and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. What is Jesus Christ? He is the Word of God. Jesus Christ is describing water serpents that are within His Word. And all of creation is within His Word. And within the decree of His Word is the reward for those that maintain faith. And we see in this instance the actual Leviathan that will be spewed out of His living Word, out of the book of life, is going to be the sons of perdition, Lucifer, Satan, and the devil, who is the fallen prince of this world, who we're going to focus on as the actual Leviathan. But this Leviathan figure of Lucifer, Satan, and the devil will fulfill the biblical symbol of the dragon, of which we're going to talk about a little further and understand some super important information that's going to make sense about the dragon and the fire that's coming out the dragon's mouth. So I need to just establish, and I'm going to show you the truth of it just right here in a moment. But what I'm trying to get you to see is that Jesus Christ is describing Leviathans that are running the path of the crooked serpent, that are trying to disturb the water line. They're in His Word, and He's saying He's going to spew them out. Everything I've been telling you is true. Just the best that I can translate it to you guys. So here we go. To see this connection with Moses, we're going to follow this connection of Leviathan right here. This description of the crooked serpent. Okay, I've turned to Numbers chapter 21. And we're going to be looking at some connections that Moses has to this influence. Moses is not a bad man. And we're going to show you that. I'm not teaching you that Moses is Leviathan, or that Moses is the devil, or that Moses was Akhenaten. I'm teaching you that Moses was an incredible leader that was connected and had been brought up in very turbulent times, where Israel itself was already influenced by the traditions of the fallen. Moses grew up in that environment, so he was already heavily influenced with that way of life. Moses also was heavily influenced with the Egyptian mystery religions. So, through his forefathers, he was connected to the fallen through these proclamations, through these sciences, through his forefathers. but through his consistent following of a higher spirit leading. Moses personally, the man, regardless of what he'd been taught by traditions, regardless of what he'd been influenced of by his environment or his forefathers, Moses continually sought to follow a higher spirit leading until he eventually found that God of love. That's what I'm declaring. That Moses was an incredible man that unfortunately had fallen due to his upbringing and other influences to the teachings of these fallen. But as he rose to become a leader and a liberator, he also sought to make the laws of Israel more closely aligned with divine perspectives. As you know, that Moses fought fervently to reduce sacrifice of all kinds, animal sacrifice, abolished human sacrifice. Moses did incredible things. And just like you see these fallen now, when they turn this world into a new world order that they proclaim is going to be some sort of utopian, that they say is going to be good things. It's not that these bad people are not about good things. It's just that they are selfish about the good things that they only want for themselves because of some sort of misconstrued histories that's been lost to the world, that has purposely been run into a deception by these higher spirit beings way before mankind has any cognizance of what's going on. So all the learned traditions and doctrines of men are under contempt. They are in contempt of the love of the Father, the true love and mercy that is declared by the Spirit of truth. So listen closely here as what you should already begin to see. This is going to be, I'm going to show you the connection between the actual symbol that I've already showed you of the Leviathan. And remember what you saw right here, my friends. What did you see? Inconsistent with Jesus Christ's words, you saw that snaking path going from the hot to the cold. And then here we have our Leviathan, which is trying to disturb the straight and narrow, which you know is the path of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ is the living word of God. Jesus Christ's word is the living waters. Now watch closely as you remember this symbol here that you just saw in this multiform fashion as I explained it. It's going to branch out and begin to make a whole lot more sense. As we read in chapter 21 of the book of Numbers, coming to verse 8. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole, and it shall come to pass that everyone that is bitten, when he looketh upon it, shall live. And the Lord said unto Moses, now remember, you already saw Jesus Christ declare that the Lord that Moses was in contact on Sinai, that was ordering the supposed manna to be eaten, was not the Father, and that was not the true bread from heaven, that all that ate of that are dead. Now you see further connection of these lords that Moses is in connection with that are not in representation of the Father. And the Lord said unto Moses, Make thee a fiery serpent, and set it upon a pole. One half of the rod of Hermes. Remember, these fallen sons of God descended on Mount Hermon, a crooked path, the fiery serpent, the fiery flying serpent, the fiery dragon, the Leviathan. Now watch closely here. And Moses made a serpent of brass and put it upon a pole. And it came to pass that if a serpent had bitten any man, when he beheld the serpent of brass, he lived. This is going to be Exodus chapter 7, reading verse 15. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out unto the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink, against he come, and the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. Now, we understand that Moses is already, by what we've seen so far, and even other videos that I've done where Moses orders the killing of 3,000 of the children of Israel after he supposedly talks the Lord out of committing this evil act. He goes on and orders this evil act himself. So, I want you to see something here. I'm telling you that the fallen prince of this world is the Leviathan, is the crooked serpent, and that this is the true influence, even this very serpent doctrine of how one is supposed to become God, just like you see that false Israel, fallen Israel, being led by Ephraim, has fallen to. They have fallen to that golden doctrine. Remember, not all that glitters is gold. Remember that, Israel. So I'm showing you a perfect instance. I'm about to show you the connection here. I'm showing you a perfect instance, once again, where this Lord is asking Moses to make this particular charm, this particular staff, this particular symbol of this serpent on a pole, which you should know by now is the symbol for the caduceus, the medical symbol, which is going to be hugely connected to an ancient Sumerian god. But just simply you should know that it's the depiction of the Leviathan, the crooked serpent. Now get a load of this. Get a good look at that picture right there. And then get a good look at this picture right here. And then remember everything that I've told you thus far. And then remember that we've already proved by Jesus' own words that the influence of the Lords that Moses is dealing with in this instance, in just this instance, because Moses, I told you, does make connections to the Spirit of truth. Absolutely. Because Moses is honestly searching for him, but he's still coming out of a traditionally blind environment where Moses is becoming a leader at that time that Israel itself needed to bring them to the next level so that they themselves could get closer to the true understanding of the glory of God, of which Moses in those days so longed for. And you better believe right now that he's got it. And that we will all meet Moses on the other side, as we'll meet all of the many people that have overcome the shadow of death by the promise and the truth of Jesus Christ. So, as you see this symbol here, listen closely to what I'm about to read. Whether related to the Urim Shemar or the Shamir or other sources of divine judgment, the graphic symbol for wisdom remained constant from the earliest times in Mesopotamia, now Iraq, in other words, Babylon. It was the emblem of the Sumerian god Enki, Lord of the sacred eye. A serpent spiraling around a central rod or stem in Egypt. The White Brotherhood of Karnak were priestly craftsmen of the therapeutae whose work with the gold, that would be the Egyptian translatory symbol for the wayward firestone, but basically that's unpronounceable, misked or something like that. But because of the distances on the words, it's kind of hard for me to get all this in there at one time. Let me back this up and read this again. Whether related to the Urim Shamir, and the Urim is going to be from the Urim and the Thummim, those seer stones, of which the priests of ancient Israel used to commune with God, in conjunction also with the Ark of the Covenant, which is a whole another video if y'all want to learn what that's all about. Whether related to the Urim Shamir or other sources of divine judgment, the graphic symbol for wisdom remained constant from the earliest times in Mesopotamia, now Iraq. It was the emblem of the Sumerian god Enki, lord of the sacred eye. A serpent spiraling around a central rod or stem. In Egypt, the White Brotherhood of Karnak were priestly craftsmen of the therapeutae whose work with the monatomic gold or the manna, and I'll just simply turn the page so that you understand what it's saying here, involved them with healing, so that wisdom and healing became synonymous, and the same serpentine emblem was adopted, just like you see on the ambulances, just like you see as the medical symbol all around us. Now, why is that symbol the chief medical symbol? Well, because Enki was the chief Sumerian physician. That's right. Guys, you're seeing some pretty incredible confirmation here. This representation, this Lord who is ordering Moses to make this exact staff, which is the emblem of Enki, which is the fuller fulfillment of the details and description, the metaphysics of Leviathan. And it's right in front of your face. The serpent is the symbol for wisdom. Enki, the serpent, the wisdom bearer. This is the portion of the knowledge that he offers to the descendancy of the sons of God, and then the descendancy through the sacred feminine, the daughters of men that bred with the sons of God, who formed this elite race known today as the Illuminati. And it's right all in your face. As I told you, and I've been telling you, that the Bible is double, that Israel has fallen a long time ago to the influence of vanity, to the influence of this mystery religion. And if you can understand Ephraim's lineage as he comes up from the descendancy of, on his mother's side, is coming directly out of Egypt. Ephraim, the leader of the 10 tribes of Israel, is descended from Egypt on his mother's side. And believe it or not, she comes from Karnak. In Egypt, the White Brotherhood of Karnak. This location, if I'm not mistaken, is exactly where this temple of An, of which she is connected as the daughter of the high priest of An, Ephraim's mother, the leader of the 10 tribes, adopted in by Jacob himself and given the name Israel, even proclaimed in the last days to have the crown upon the top of his head, which is in reality the last crown chakra which is purple, which is exactly what you see is this serpent, which is invaded along the temple path ever since Eden until now to achieve his divinity in your eyes. And right now, a huge portion of the world is falling for it. The chakras aren't bad, but having a serpent climb up through your spine is. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. So, there you have it, friends. If you didn't, I mean, if you can begin to actually absorb what I'm showing you and remember what I'm telling you, that Moses is not a bad man. This is the mercy of the Father. The Father sees the potential into eternity. He doesn't, you got to understand, Moses is born into an environment like this, just like we are. Some of these people don't know no better. It matters what's in your heart. And Moses was, in his heart, leading his people to the best thing that he knew possible at that time. And the things that he was showing them was far better than the things around them and what they were going through. It was much better than worshiping lifeless golden calves, was it not? So if you really want to understand the perspective of Moses in God's eyes and how the Father truly sees him, you should read the Urantia book. You're not going to find none of what I just showed you in the Urantia book with all of this stuff. And there's good reason, because that book would not be here if it was. That book is written in such a way, just like Jesus Christ wrote his parables, so that it could still reach the masses intact without being destroyed by the powers that be. And you see these powers that be have their little footmen agents run around everywhere trying to get you guys not to realize what the truth is, when the truth is constantly staring you in the face. And I'm fighting, man. I'm fighting with everything I got for the people, for the service of my brothers, knowing that my life is on the line. Of course I know that. Of course I know that. And all those that listen that conspire against me, even up to the highest of the highest, you know that I'm no fool. You know that I know this. But at the same time, you should know that I'm not flesh. That the Father has made a promise to me that I know he's going to see through, and I'm going to see it through. That's just a simple fact. My message is not, I feel no guilt for my message of proclaiming love and brotherhood for all. That's it. No racism, no hatred, no vanity, no deceit, just love for everyone. There's nothing wrong with that message. I'm trying to help save people. I know that something's going to happen on the East Coast of the United States, centralized around New York, the Big Apple, which is associated with the millstone, the second cup. It's going to come from the moon. I'm trying to warn people of that. And if you guys have seen what I've shown you now, and that you can take it serious, you should take everything else serious. And that you should begin to take all of these taunts and all these accusations against me as the real, true proof that I'm bringing you guys the truth, and that somebody's trying to stop it. But as you see, the Spirit holds me up. And the Spirit, as I imagine, going to hold me up until my work is done. And do I know when that is? No, I don't. But I'm going to stay the path. I'm going to stay the course. You better believe it. You better believe it. So there we have it, friends. I've been telling you the whole time that the Antichrist is Inky, the fallen prince of this world, in every way possible. And now you see the actual symbol of the crooked serpent, the fiery dragon. And then if you look at it on the medical symbol, they've even put wings on the serpent, the fiery flying serpent. The crooked serpent on the pole. There's the pole right there. The very same thing. The symbol for wisdom, the symbol for the serpent, Inky. Right there. The crooked path. The Leviathan. The Nahesh. All right. And don't take it lightly that Ephraim's actual descendancy comes from this exact location, this exact society known as the White Brotherhood. And I'm going to tell you, Nazism has its origins in this also. All of that is connected. The SS for the Nazi, you guys I just not even going to say it. You guys just really don't know how deep this conspiracy is going. Always and ever remember that the United States absorbed, through Project Paperclip, those basically the rocket scientists, the Nazi rocket scientists, okay? And all of those philosophies are connected right on back to the Vril Thul Society, which is heavily steeped in this ancient mighty race that's supposed to be underneath the earth. Heavily steeped. In other words, the ancient mighty ones, the 13th judge of Israel, Dan, DNA, the crooked serpent. One of the types of Leviathans there are, not the Leviathan, but they are channeling the actual Leviathan spirit, and then they actually have the DNA heritage still intact to benefit from it. And like I said, you're going to see these beings glow. But before they show, they're going to bring some ones that are going to try to fool you that are associated with the gray aliens, the reptiles, certain like giant beings, and they're going to have these beings show first, and then try to scare the living bejeebies out of everybody, and everybody's going to run and hide in fear, and then supposedly these Elohim will appear, in other words, the Danites, and clear house, get rid of all of these other ones, which in reality, they're all working together. They're all staging this. Remember, the whole world is a stage? Well, they're about to put on a big show. So without a doubt, friends, what I'm showing you is the truth. That there is this proclamation of anger, wrath, and death in the Bible. This judgment against Babylon that you're seeing with fire from the sky, as far as it's concerned with the second cup, as far as it's concerned with destroying sinners, is not coming from the Father. That, in fact, it's their sword that they're bringing upon their children, just like Hosea says, and Ephraim should be in a pleasant place while he brings his children to the murderer. Well, Jesus Christ already described their father as the murderer, and we're looking at the understanding of the murderer right here, and that's going to be Inky. And the deepness of the understanding of Inky being the fullness of the murderer is because he's trying to bring mankind to some sort of perfection as he sees fit through some sort of shortcut. And in reality, the man that he's trying to bring to perfection is not you, it's himself. He's trying to be the physical man, the golden man, the Ankh Goldman. He's trying to be the perfect specimen in flesh. His whole mission and agenda has been to use the sons of God, to use the daughters of man, to use the Pharaonic kings, to use the Elites, to use these learned men that had potential, that did long for the Spirit, that did long for the truth, but unfortunately they got muddled in the traditions of men, and they lost their way, and they began to follow the doctrines of ego, the doctrines of vanity, the doctrines of the obscurity of light, and not the light itself, and that would be the shadow. So understand the truth, if you can. If you can, understand the truth. And now, take a good look at that scripture. Take a good look at that scripture and know what you've already saw, and then let us continue on. And I'm going to show you something that I think is pretty amazing. We're going to talk about the love of God, about the truth. And this will be the confirmation for what I tell you guys is the truth. This is going to be Jude, looking at verse 8 through. Likewise also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities. Yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee. Think about that for a moment. Now that you've seen the other scriptures that I showed you and brought you here. If you have been a studier of the Bible, this verse here has probably constantly confused you. I'm hoping right now that you're no longer confused. Yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil, who did I tell you that the fallen prince was? Who did I tell you that the devil was? Enki, Lord of the Apsu, which means Lord of the Abyss. Enki, Lord of the earth, Lord of the flowing waters, and Enki, Lord of the sacred eye. Starting to make some sense. The Leviathan, sealed in the water word, and it needs to create some distortion. It needs to make some waves. See that? Seems like somebody knows. See that? See the path of the crooked serpent? See the snaking motion of the Leviathan as it's trying to disturb the waterline? Enki, Lord of the sacred eye. Yet Michael, the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses. The devil, he disputed about the body of Moses. Why would the devil be trying to contend for the very spirit, the very soul of Moses? Because when we're talking about the body of Moses, we're talking about Moses and his death. And in reference, when we see the archangel Michael, who is now there to stop the devil, to stop the fallen prince, to stop Enki, the crooked serpent, from taking ownership of Moses' soul. And as you see this, Michael, as he's described here, does not bring any railing accusation against him, but simply says, "The Lord rebuke thee." Spirit of truth. So you see, the devil has some sort of special affinity for Moses and saw him as one of his workers. But as I told you, the Father of all knows the heart and the spirit longing of each and every one of us. And Moses longed to see the light, the clear light of a loving Father. And you better believe he got it, just like each and every one of you are going to get it. And you should be able to see that. You should be able to see the mercy of God that is being shown in such a simple way. You should be able to see it, guys. So now, if you want to learn further about this understanding with Michael and what the real identity of Michael is, then you need to view my series that I did on my playlist, you'll see it titled by name with Michael in it. Check it out. Check it out. But whether you understand what I'm trying to convey about Michael or not, you should easily see what I'm trying to convey to you right here as it concerns Moses and this caduceus staff, the rod of Hermes. In other words, the crooked serpent, Enki, the symbol for this serpent wisdom from the early days of the Garden of Genesis, using the knowledge of good and evil. You should see it all come together. Okay, now, before we move forward, and yes, we're going to move forward here, we need to get to Isaiah and just show you a few things that are going to hopefully bring us all the way through up to Job chapter 41. That if you've been following this through the whole series and much of the other work that I've done, you really are going to have, and you do have right now, a good, solid grasp of what's going on. You really do. And hopefully you're sincere, so you can begin to start showing some people what's up. Okay. Remember that I just showed you that Enki, that is his symbol, the caduceus, the medical emblem. The symbol for DNA is because he is the one that is said to have the power to manipulate the DNA. Now, why would he? Well, because he was the prince of this world at one time. He was the overseer of the proclamation of life on this world. Just as Jesus Christ declares. Just like the Bible declares in Job chapter 38, before they rebelled up to line 7. Just like Ezekiel chapter 28 declares that they were perfect in all their ways until iniquity was found in them. So they were here for a reason. They knew these things. These high spirit beings knew these things. They knew the understanding of the chakra as the housing of the temple for the Spirit of the Lord, and that they had to find a way to get mankind to forget his true source of his true gift through the Father, and to begin to accept some sort of abomination of the serpent invading the temple. And then to keep all of the other masses completely blind to the fact that they even had the potential for this power, this gift from the Father. Not to be that it was going to be that you were immortal in the flesh, but instead that you were going to grow in grace in the flesh, in love and mercy and compassion for those around you. Those are the true superpowers. That's what makes one godlike. Not that you can impose your anger and your wrath and your deception upon somebody, but instead you choose to impose your love, your sincerity, your friendship, your loyalty, your genuinity. Think about it. So, I want to show you something in my Rajit's thesaurus. And I want you to remember that we saw that Enki was now, as you're seeing, the root for this sacred eye, this all-seeing eye, this wisdom eye. It's all going back to the fallen prince of this world, just like Jesus Christ is correctly identified in so many parable descriptions for those that had the eye to see, that those that were willing to follow the voice of the true shepherd, to stay the waterline. To he who has, even more shall be given, and then more shall be given after that. So let me show you something. This is going to be Isaiah chapter 14, verse 29. Remember what we saw with Moses and the rod and the serpent. Verse 29. Rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery, flying serpent. Remember that the Lord in the Old Testament was offering or commanding Moses to make this serpent, fiery serpent, and put it on this rod. Isaiah is speaking out against them, lords, right now, and that influence. Rejoice not, thou whole Palestinia, because the rod, what rod? The rod of who? The rod of these Leviathans that were smiting the peoples? It says not to rejoice, because in reality, out of this rod is still going to come, out of this rod of the serpent's root is still going to come forth the cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery, flying serpent. That's going to be the AC. That's Inky. The fiery, flying serpent. The plumed, feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl. The tall, pale skin, enlightened one, as he will fulfill himself. You see that? The rod, just like the rod with Moses, the fiery serpent, just like with Moses and that Lord, just like with the symbol that I just showed you, all the symbol for what? The Leviathan. All the symbol for what? The Antichrist. All the symbol for the knowledge for them to obtain their dominion, to break the seal, to break the waterline, to delude mankind, and for them to gain control over our world, for them to be perceived as gods, and for this one fallen God to enter into the flesh for a short period of time and to be seen and perceive himself as perfect, when in reality he's going to be wretched, cold, and naked, poor, and feeble. The very sword that he tries to bring against us in the flesh, he's going to feel what it feels like to have that sword come upon him in the flesh. He who kills with a sword must be killed with a sword. I imagine Inky in the flesh is going to have some things befall him that he's been trying to have befall everyone else. And any that have been dealing treacherously and wickedly with him, here's the warning to you: Babylon, give unto her double. Babylon means confusion. Guess what? Some of you are confused. You're confused now because you don't even know your own doctrines. You haven't gone to the highest levels yet. You haven't studied and read far enough yet. You've still been chasing down the material pleasures. You haven't spent enough time in serious study. And then you don't even know what they've been teaching you. If you continue to listen to me, I'm going to teach you what Jesus Christ is teaching. And that's the truth. He loves you. That's what I got to tell you. He loves you. I love you. I'm your friend. I'm not your enemy. I'm not trying to destroy the world. I'm trying to help show the world that it's already been saved, and to just have some faith and trust in good over evil. Trust in good over evil. Jesus Christ is that good, and he's going to prevail. So, you see, Isaiah is describing the cockatrice in association with the rod. It's even further than that, because it's describing that Inky is going to come from the descendancy of these other serpent roots. Just as I told you that the serpent's going to eat the dust of the earth all the days of his life. The dust of the earth represents the DNA, the carbon atom pattern of these ancient pharaonic and Babylonian serpent kings, these serpent lords. And then, of course, they preserved and entombed themselves, and they preserved their DNA. And then this is why we know that the archaeological establishment of the last many ages has been secretly working to keep all of these sites a total secret and to keep their discoveries to themselves, because they were working on a great work, and they were trying to begin to crack the code of the shadow of death, the carbon atom, the book of life, the DNA helix, the twisted coiling, as they would perceive as the serpent wisdom, to achieve this being in the material, in the flesh. And that, if you can't understand that, I'm sorry, but that's the fullness of what that verse is trying to tell you, saying, rejoice not, even though that they have been broken at one time. And you would have to go back to Ezekiel chapter 19 to see that, yeah, that Ishtar did corrupt some of these ancient sons of God at one time, but then they were sealed and entombed in Egypt underneath these pointed stones, which are going to be the Great Pyramid of Giza. In other words, the band of Orion. And then that's why you see in Job chapter 38, who can loose the bands of Orion so that they can achieve their sweet influences of the Pleiades, which you know now is a representation of this golden age that's supposed to be brought upon by these enlightened ones, which in reality are the crooked serpents. And with their tails, they do hurt. The locust of Revelation chapter 9. Okay. Notice cockatrice and its association now with all the symbolism for Leviathan that you see as a connection for the faction of lords that are representing Leviathan that Moses has been influenced by, but at the same time Moses is beginning to follow the spirit leading of a higher spirit, and you see that higher spirit come to claim Moses's soul and to bring it unblemished to the other side. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. All right, let's look at the Rajat Theosaurus, and let's look at an amazing connection with cockatrice. And remember what you saw here, that from Isaiah's mouth describing this cockatrice with the rod, as you see now, that it's Enki. And then we see the secret of the ages, that Enki is the true symbol for this all-seeing sacred eye. It's Enki. It's what I've been telling. It's what I've been telling everybody. And these, just, oh my gosh, these huge channels that are just giving the spin, knowingly trying to keep all you guys blind, telling you that it's a bomber, telling you that it's this, that, or the other. Man, I'm telling you, it's Enki. The strong delusion is with these strong ones, these ancient mighty ones. The Dans, the 13th judge of Israel, the serpent judges who are going to come illuminated, bearing this knowledge and the benefit of this knowledge due to their DNA. So, Enki, sacred eye, tied it up to cockatrice. Now let's look at it at the Rajat Thesaurus. Cockatrice, monster, reptile. Reptile. Now, what type of monster would a reptile be in this instance? It'd be a dragon, because a dragon is a monstrous reptile. Serpent, evil eye, boom. Cockatrice. Cockatrice means evil eye. In other words, to them, sacred eye. The sacred eye of Enki. The cockatrice, the fiery flying serpent. The crooked serpent. The Leviathan. The Nahesh. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. No refuting it. The deceiver. And it's all a cock and bull story. And then right here on the Iraqi dinar, right there with Dan as the pale horse, and death and hell followed with him. In other words, this is the death and hell that's going to follow after Dan. It's going to be this cockatrice, Enki, the Mashushu dragon. And of course, don't forget that he was sealed in his little watery egg, and he's hoping to get out. And people are already trying to let him out. And you see what his main mission is? To behead the lion, to destroy the conquering lion and all the believers of the conquering lion of Judah. All of it's right there. And I thank everyone that spent the time with me to bring you this far and show you what I did. I really, really do. Okay. I am going to bring us now to fulfill a little bit more about this Leviathan. And we're going to look at chapter 27 of Isaiah. And I want you to see that Isaiah really, like I said, knows what he's talking about. And that day the Lord with his sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. There's the dragon that's in the sea. Okay, that's going to be slain. That's going to be Enki. That's going to be one of these high spirit sons who is fallen, a fallen prince of this world. If he was a one-time prince of this world, he represented the kingdom of the Father, the very same kingdom of the Father that Jesus Christ represented. And that this is why the life that Jesus Christ lived in the flesh has the power to judge them. Because as you see, the sons of God fell in the flesh, and they could not even uphold dignity, goodness, judgment, and compassion in the flesh. They fell. They fell to their own brightness. They fell to their own egos, all guided by this one here, as he was guided further and influenced by Lucifer. But the point is that this high spirit being has come from the spirit abode. He was created inherently divine. Just like Ezekiel chapter 28 says, perfect from thy days, perfect from their creation. There was no iniquity found in them until they created it within themselves. Their own vanity, their own impatience, their own wanting of the shortcut. In other words, the parable of the prodigal sons. Exactly right. And I told you that the prodigal sons were actually the locust. Did I not? Yeah, I did. Retain that, because I'm going to save something I'm going to show you another time to show you what I'm telling you about the locust is really being the true source of the parable of the prodigal sons. These ancient mighty ones, these ancient sons of God and their descendancy, they're the true prodigal sons that have left the original knowledge and they have gone way out. But as we know that the Father is always willing and waiting to welcome them back. So when we speak of what in the way Jesus Christ is already all-knowing, he is ready to welcome back at all time, even the high spirit sons, Lucifer, Satan, the devil. But because they've already come from the heavenly abode, they've already seen the glory of the Father. They already know. They haven't seen the glory of the Father, they've seen the glory of the Son. And they know the heavenly way, but yet they've rejected it. And because they've already known it and rejected it, they were hot at one time, and now they have elected to go to the cold, which you saw further symbolized as the material. So they've elected to leave the high spirit estate that they were created inherently divine in, to come down and indulge in this material life, these material pleasures and lusts. And Jesus Christ, in knowing this, basically knows that they're never going to come back to him, at least the high spirit sons. So the descendancy, the sons of God themselves, are not Lucifer, Satan, and the devil. The original sons of God were these ancient mighty men that fostered the Nephilim race. Now that's what I said with them being the true prodigal sons, is the sons of God and their descendancy, that they will be welcomed back, that the children cannot be judged for the sins of the fathers, if you understand that. So if their father was the devil is the one who the unrighteousness and the wickedness is truly upon, their father the murderer. So they will be punished, but they'll be welcomed back. Now the punishment will be the withholding of the glory of which they're already hoping to achieve in this world by false material means. So that glory that they were trying to take a shortcut to, the supposed divinity power status that they're hoping to have, that's what's going to be delayed in their coming and being given to them. Because they were trying to take a shortcut. There is no shortcut to perfection. It's only the straight and narrow. That's the shortest distance between these 2 points of mortal to immortality, from flesh to the reflection of divinity that Jesus Christ offers in this perfection, as he says, be thou perfect even as I am. Wow, friends, we're getting up to the hour point. I'm going to try to close it off. I don't want to make these videos any longer than an hour. Let's look and see. Isaiah knows exactly what he's talking about. And that day the Lord with his sword and great and strong sword shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that's in the sea. Isaiah is correctly dividing the understanding of the Leviathans. when he says that only these Leviathans, meaning the piercing serpent Leviathan, the crooked serpent Leviathan, they're only going to be punished, that's going to be the sons of God and their descendancy. Those Leviathans, those crooked serpents. But when he describes that the dragon that's in the sea will be slain, Isaiah knows what I know. That these sons of perdition they're not going to repent. They've already rejected, and their pride has been nurtured to such a high degree that they're going to remain rebels to love, to true love, until the end. They're going to be annihilated. And because think about what they're fostering, what they're motivating men to do with this false teaching, and at the same time trying to muddle up the true love of Jesus Christ. Man, that's a heavy-duty crime right there. And if they're still going to think at the very end that what they did was right, then you can see that there is no place in the spiritual dimensional presence of the Father that they could actually exist if they continually reject him. They've been given a long enough time to repent. As you know, that the fallen prince of this world is still maintained on this world. He is still the God of this world. So there's been no railing accusation brought against them as of yet. But at this time of judgment, when Jesus Christ returns in all of his spirit glory, that's it. It's lights out for them. Just like they wanted to be lights out for us, it's actually lights out for them. So friends, stay the path. Understand that I'm just a simple dude. I really am. That somehow, because my faith is strong, I truly believe in the Father. I truly know Jesus Christ. More has been given to me. It's the only way I can explain it to you guys. It's the only way. So, these Leviathans that are known as the piercing serpent, because why are they associated with the piercing serpent? We're about to close this video out. Because these are the ones that are actually channeling this dragon right here. They're actually channeling this dragon. And the key is to see that this piercing, and the piercing is when they reach their illumination, when this luminous rod, once again, the rod, luminous rod, hopefully pierces the top of the head. And then it says, when this happens, the person is said to be illuminated. Exactly right. So these are going to be the Dans. These are going to be the ancient mighty men that have basically taken the proclamation of the fallen prince of this world. He has deluded them. They have now fallen upon the crooked path. They have become known as the lesser Leviathans that prepared the way to bring about the crooked serpent, Enki, the Nahesh himself into this world. Don't be fooled by anybody that tells you about Obama, and don't be fooled by any videos by anybody that says Jesus Christ reveals the Antichrist by some story about lightning as it relates to Barack Obama. No, Barack Obama is once again the ringer, just trying to fulfill the reflection of the most simplest understanding of the verses there are to deceive the masses who don't know the fuller truth of what we just talked about here. So there's the Leviathans, the locusts that Isaiah is correctly dividing here is only going to be punished. And then, of course, as you read in Revelation, you see that the false prophet, the beast, and the dragon are thrown into the lake of fire. In other words, Lucifer, Satan, and the devil are annihilated. So if we were, I feel that I might have just enough time to go to Job chapter 41 and show you here that this chapter is all about the Leviathans. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? This Leviathan, the sea serpent, this is talking about Enki. Who can bring Enki up? Who can draw him out? Now you know what the sandy hook supposed conspiracy was coded all about. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook? The sandy hook, you need a sandy hook, or you're going to most likely get a sandy hook if you're trying to catch a sea serpent. If you're trying to draw a sea serpent out, sands of the sea, the sinking sands of the city of New York City, all connected to bringing about the Leviathan through the second cup, that blood sacrifice. Now, in reality, this story about Leviathan of Job chapter 41, to its fullness, is about Apollyon that would connect to chapter 9, verse 11 of Revelation. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. That's going to be Enki, and that's going to connect directly to the locust, of which Apollyon is their king in Revelation chapter 9:11. I want you to see here and remember, because I don't have the energy to go into it and show it to you. Maybe I do. I don't know. I'm about to close this video out. I want you to see right here, verse 18. By his neesings a light doth shine. What is neesings? It's breathings. And then this kundalini is achieved by breathing exercises. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth goeth burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, a flame goeth out of his mouth. The fire-breathing dragon. You know there's never been no dragons that actually breathe fire. But there has been the ancient figurative depiction, the symbolic description of Leviathan as he breathes this fiery doctrine of hell known as this false doctrine. Ye are gods. The very same false doctrine that the serpent is using to confuse mankind and to tempt him with, to get mankind or a portion of him to perform this wicked work, which in reality is just using everybody so that the serpent can achieve his power over everyone. But he don't get it, because the Father is for everyone, and he's even for the wicked of this earth, the wicked children that have been deceived and grown up as wicked men to become world rulers. The Father is even for you, and he's going to save you as he's already saved you through his living word and his promise. He's going to save you from this wrath of the serpent when the time comes. Begin to trust in Jesus Christ. Begin to do it. All right. So I just want you to see here that this is all about the raising up of the Leviathan, but it's also describing those that are channeling this Leviathan spirit. Pay close attention to the description of the fire, smoke, and brimstone that's coming out of the Leviathan's mouth. And I'm going to show you right now that it is the very same thing that's coming out of the locust's mouth in Revelation chapter 9. And this video is going to be over with. This was a major undertaking for me to take, guys. I've got another video to do after this, which will explain more about the temple, more about monatomic gold itself. But this has been just a really hard to just say in one take and follow all the scriptures and then compare everything and paint this portrait of history, without really having any brushes or paints, and having to do it all through pure spirit will, pure service to my brothers, pure love for people, because I want them to know and I want them to see and not be fooled and understand what the strong delusion is. Okay, Revelation chapter 9. Remember verse 11. The very same king of Job chapter 41, the last verse, and they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit. The bottomless pit, the angel of the abyss. Enki is supposed to be the fallen prince of this world. In other words, he's supposed to be a fallen angel of the abyss. Enki, Lord of the abyss. Enki, Lord of the Apsu, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon, which means destroyer. And then what does Jesus Christ say? He says, the straight and narrow path is the correct way. He said, but the wide path is the path to destruction. And then as you see, the serpent is plotting the wide path. You see the straight and narrow, and then you see the serpent snaking back and forth. That's the wide path, the broad way that leadeth to destruction. And then now you know that New York City is the broad way. That is where the second cup's going to take place. That's where they've designated it, guys. So I want you to see that the locusts have something coming out their mouth, which is going to prove that they are these enlightened Leviathans. In other words, these Dans. And listen close here. And thus I saw the horses. Remember, and the snorting of the horses was heard from Dan. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. Remember, the army of Joel 2 is men, great men, prepared in great battle array, and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions. Well, in Deuteronomy chapter 33, Moses prophesies that Dan shall be a lion's whelp in the last days, who shall leap forth from Bashan. And then you know that Bashan or Bashin is the land of the giants. In other words, it's the underworld. That Dan is going to leap forth as this judge, being described now as a lion's whelp, or within symbolism of a lion's whelp, because originally Dan is one of these offsprings of the sons of God, who were at that time the lion kings of the early primitive evolving world of this time, the lions of the jungle. And out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. By these three was the third part of men killed, by the fire, and by the smoke, and by the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. For their power is in their mouth. It's in their doctrine. That's the only power that they're going to have over you, if they can get you to believe their hellfire doctrines. That is all associated with the rising and the channeling of this Kundalini serpent. Just like you saw in Job chapter 41, those were the exact same things by the kneesing, by the breathing exercise, by the channeling exercise. And then remember that when in Genesis, when God was going to create mankind from the dust of the earth, what did he do as the secondary act? He breathed into them. Now you know that Enki, being at one time connected to how this world was to be created and how the order of this world was to exist, but through a spiritual means, through the word of Jesus Christ and his proclamations, you see that Enki is using that knowledge and trying to copy it in the material medium. And everything is a mirror reflection. That's why they truly run the mirror that reflects the opposite of the spiritual truth as the material delusion of which you're seeing right here in front of you. So the fire, the smoke, and the brimstone is proving that these are the locusts that are channeling the piercing, crooked serpent. Understand and know what I'm telling you is the truth. I'll be back.